The morning air was cool and damp along the American River in the foothills of California's Sierra Nevada mountains. Mist drifted lazily over the rushing water as the first rays of sunlight crept across towering pine trees. To anyone passing through, it appeared to be just another peaceful January morning in the wilderness. Birds called from the forest canopy, while the river flowed with the same quiet determination it had for thousands of years. No one could have imagined that beneath those waters lay something capable of changing not only California, but the future of the United States itself. On January 24, 1848, a carpenter named James Wilson Marshall bent down beside a newly constructed sawmill. He had spent the morning inspecting the mill race, a channel built to carry water that powered the mill's machinery. During his routine inspection, something unusual caught his eye. Tiny yellow flakes sparkled beneath the clear water. At first, Marshall assumed they were ordinary stones reflecting the sunlight. Yet something about their brilliant shine seemed different. Curious, he stepped into the icy water, picked up several pieces, and rubbed them between his fingers. They refused to break apart. They remained bright, heavy, and unmistakably metallic. Marshall had a suspicion. Could this really be gold? That single moment, lasting only a few seconds, would trigger one of the greatest migrations in human history. Within only a few years, hundreds of thousands of people from nearly every corner of the globe would abandon their homes, risk everything they owned, and journey toward California with dreams of unimaginable wealth. Some would become legends. Many would lose everything. Thousands would never return home. This is the story of the California Gold Rush, a story of hope, greed, determination, tragedy, and transformation. But to understand why this discovery mattered so much, we must first travel back to a California that looked nothing like the bustling state we know today. In the middle of the 19th century, California was still a remote frontier. Vast forests stretched across mountain ranges. Enormous valleys remained untouched by large-scale settlement. Grizzly bears roamed freely, elk grazed in open meadows, and salmon filled rivers each year during their spawning migrations. For thousands of years, Native American communities had lived across this land. Hundreds of tribes developed unique cultures, languages, and traditions suited to California's diverse landscapes. They hunted, fished, gathered acorns, and maintained sophisticated relationships with the environment. European influence arrived slowly. Spanish explorers reached California during the 16th century, but permanent colonization did not begin until 1769 with the establishment of Catholic missions. Over the following decades, 21 missions stretched along the California coast, seeking to convert native peoples to Christianity while expanding Spain's presence in the region. Life changed dramatically for many indigenous communities. Disease, forced labor, displacement, and violence devastated populations that had flourished for centuries before European arrival. In 1821, Mexico won its independence from Spain, and California became part of the new Mexican nation. The missions gradually lost power, while enormous ranches, known as ranchos, were granted to influential families. Vast herds of cattle became the backbone of California's economy. At that time, very few Americans lived there. To most people in the eastern United States, California felt unimaginably distant. Reaching it was an adventure measured not in days, but in months. Travelers had three difficult choices. The first option required crossing thousands of miles of wilderness by wagon. Families endured scorching deserts, towering mountains, disease, broken equipment, and constant uncertainty. Many never completed the journey. The second route involved sailing around Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America. The voyage often lasted 5 to 8 months, while ships battled violent storms and massive waves. The third path combined sea and land travel through the Isthmus of Panama. Travelers sailed to Central America, crossed dangerous jungles on foot or by mule, then boarded another ship on the Pacific coast. Each route demanded courage. Each carried enormous risks. Yet before 1848, few people believed California held the promise of instant fortune. That would soon change forever. Only days after discovering the mysterious yellow metal, James Marshall rushed to tell the owner of the sawmill, a Swiss immigrant named John Sutter. Sutter was one of the wealthiest men in California. Years earlier, he had dreamed of creating a vast agricultural empire. He built a fortified settlement known as Sutter's Fort near present-day Sacramento and established farms, workshops, and trading operations across the surrounding land. The sawmill under construction was essential to his growing business. When Marshall showed him the strange metal, Sutter immediately recognized both its potential value and its potential danger. If word spread, workers would abandon construction. Farmers would leave their fields. Laborers would quit their jobs. His ambitious plans could collapse overnight. Determined to keep the discovery secret, the two men tested the metal using simple methods available at the time. Gold possesses unique characteristics. It is unusually heavy. It does not rust. It bends rather than breaks. Acid does not easily damage it. Every test pointed toward the same conclusion. The flakes were genuine gold. Marshall and Sutter swore everyone involved to secrecy. But secrets involving wealth rarely remain hidden for long. Workers at the mill began whispering. Local merchants overheard conversations. Visitors noticed excitement spreading through nearby settlements. Rumors traveled faster than horses. Soon people quietly slipped away from their jobs carrying pans and shovels toward the American River. Some returned with pockets full of glittering metal. The whispers became impossible to silence. California's greatest secret had begun escaping into the world. Ironically, John Sutter watched his nightmare unfold almost immediately. Instead of helping him finish the sawmill, employees deserted their posts. Blacksmiths disappeared. Carpenters vanished. Farm workers abandoned crops ready for harvest. Entire crews left overnight, hoping to strike it rich. Even servants walked away. Sutter later recalled watching his business collapse piece by piece as gold fever infected nearly everyone around him. He had discovered unimaginable wealth. Yet he would become one of the few men to lose almost everything because of it. His story would become one of history's greatest ironies. Meanwhile, local newspapers cautiously reported rumors of gold discoveries. Many readers dismissed the stories as exaggerations. After all, newspapers often printed sensational claims designed to attract attention. Even officials hesitated to believe them. Was there truly enough gold to justify the excitement? Or was this simply another frontier myth? The answer arrived months later through the highest office in the United States. In December 1848, President James K. Polk addressed Congress. Government investigators had verified the discoveries. California possessed extraordinary quantities of gold. The president's announcement carried enormous authority. Suddenly, the rumors became undeniable facts. Across the nation, conversations changed almost overnight. Shopkeepers discussed California. Farmers discussed California. Teachers, sailors, doctors, lawyers, and factory workers discussed California. The word California became synonymous with opportunity. People who had never considered leaving home suddenly imagined beginning entirely new lives thousands of miles away. The greatest gold rush in American history was about to begin. By the spring of 1848, the whispers that had begun along the American River had spread far beyond the forests of Northern California. At first, they traveled from miner to merchant, from traveler to ship captain, from letter to newspaper. Each retelling made the discovery sound even more unbelievable. Some claimed a man could gather enough gold in a single day to buy a farm back east. Others insisted that nuggets the size of walnuts lay scattered along riverbanks, waiting to be picked up. Many dismissed these stories as frontier exaggerations. America had heard tales of hidden riches before, and most had turned out to be nothing more than hopeful fantasies. But this time, the rumors refused to disappear. Instead, they grew stronger with every passing week. The turning point came when merchants and naval officers arrived in eastern cities carrying actual samples of California gold. Curious crowds gathered around display cases, staring in amazement at bright yellow nuggets that had traveled thousands of miles from the Pacific coast. Suddenly, the impossible had become real. The newspapers could talk about little else. Editors filled entire front pages with stories from California. Some articles described rivers sparkling with gold. Others published letters from miners who claimed they had earned more in a fay. Hope was contagious. In taverns, people argued over the fastest route west. In barbershops, customers debated how much money they might earn. At dinner tables, families discussed whether they should risk everything for a chance at a better future. The phrase gold fever entered everyday conversation because it truly resembled an illness. It spread rapidly, clouded judgment, and convinced otherwise cautious people to take extraordinary risks. Farmers left crops standing in their fields. Teachers resigned from their classrooms. Doctors closed their practices. Lawyers abandoned their offices. Even experienced merchants, who understood the dangers of speculation, found themselves dreaming of California. Some sold their homes. Others borrowed money they could barely afford to repay. A few packed only the essentials, convinced they would return within a year as wealthy men. Many believed they were chasing gold. In reality, they were chasing possibility. The greatest obstacle was distance. California still lay thousands of miles away, separated from the rest of the United States by mountains, deserts, and oceans. There were no transcontinental railroads. No highways crossed the continent. Every journey demanded patience, determination, and courage. Those traveling overland organized wagon trains that often included dozens of families. Months before departure, they gathered supplies with meticulous care. Flour, beans, coffee, salt pork, dried fruit, blankets, cooking pots, rifles, ammunition, spare wagon wheels, medicine, rope, and tools filled every available space. Gold pans and shovels became prized possessions. Each family had to make difficult decisions about what to leave behind. A favorite chair could not fit beside barrels of food. Extra clothing might have to be sacrificed for medical supplies. Every pound mattered. Once the wagons rolled west, there would be few opportunities to replace forgotten necessities. The journey itself tested. Summer heat baked the plains. Dust coated faces and clothing until everyone looked the same shade of brown. Rivers had to be crossed without bridges. Mountain passes challenged even the strongest oxen. Disease spread quickly through crowded camps. Accidents claimed lives with heartbreaking regularity. Yet every evening, exhausted travelers gathered around campfires and imagined the same future. Some pictured striking a rich vein of gold. Others dreamed of buying land, opening businesses, or providing opportunities for children who otherwise faced lives of poverty. Those dreams kept them moving. Not everyone chose the land route. Along the eastern seaboard, ports such as New York and Boston became crowded with ships preparing for the long voyage around Cape Horn. The journey could last 6 months or more. Passengers endured violent storms, towering waves, cramped sleeping quarters, spoiled food, and outbreaks of disease. Crossing Cape Horn itself was one of the most dangerous passages in the world. Powerful winds slammed sailing ships without warning. Massive seas crashed over the decks. Experienced sailors treated the waters with deep respect, knowing that a single mistake could send a vessel to the bottom of the ocean. Still, every departing ship carried hopeful passengers who believed the hardships would be forgotten the moment they reached California. A third route led through the Isthmus of Panama. Travelers sailed to Central America, crossed humid jungles by canoe, mule, or on foot, and then searched desperately for another ship waiting on the Pacific coast. The crossing was exhausting. Heavy rains turned trails into rivers of mud. Mosquitoes carried deadly diseases. Heat and humidity overwhelmed people accustomed to cooler climates. Even so, many considered Panama the quickest path to California. There was no easy way west, only different kinds of hardship. As thousands prepared to leave, California itself began changing before the newcomers even arrived. Small settlements grew busier with each passing week. General stores struggled to keep goods on their shelves. Blacksmiths worked from sunrise until long after dark repairing tools and wagon parts. Every ship entering San Francisco Bay brought more passengers than the town could comfortably accommodate. Some captains faced an unexpected problem. Entire crews deserted the moment they reached California. Sailors who had signed contracts to work aboard ships suddenly abandoned their duties, convinced they could earn far more searching for gold than remaining at sea. Before long, abandoned vessels lined parts of San Francisco's waterfront, silent reminders that gold had become more valuable than steady employment. The rush had already begun reshaping society, and this was only the beginning. Within months, the world would come to know these fortune seekers by a new name, the 49ers, men and women whose determination, ambition, and sacrifice would forever alter the history of the American West. As the years passed, the California gold rush slowly began to lose its momentum. The easily accessible gold that had once been found in riverbeds and shallow streams became increasingly difficult to locate. Individual prospectors who had arrived with dreams of instant wealth discovered that success now required expensive machinery, organized mining companies, and significant financial investment. The era of the lone miner panning for gold was gradually coming to an end. Yet the true legacy of the gold rush was never measured only in ounces of gold. California had been transformed forever. What had once been a remote frontier became one of the fastest-growing regions in the United States. Towns expanded into cities, roads connected distant communities, businesses flourished, and San Francisco emerged as a major port on the Pacific coast. In 1850, California was admitted to the Union as the 31st state, a remarkable milestone achieved just 2 years after gold was discovered. The gold rush also reshaped the American economy. Banks, shipping companies, merchants, manufacturers, and transportation networks all benefited from the enormous flow of people and commerce. Opportunities multiplied far beyond the mining camps. For many entrepreneurs, selling tools, food, clothing, or services proved far more profitable than searching for gold itself. But this extraordinary period came at a profound human cost. Native American communities suffered displacement, violence, disease, and the destruction of their traditional lands. Rivers and forests were dramatically altered by mining, leaving environmental scars that remained long after the rush had faded. The pursuit of wealth changed landscapes and lives in ways that could never be fully reversed. For the 49ers, the journey itself became part of history. Some returned home wealthy, able to buy land, start businesses, or secure a comfortable future for their families. Many others returned with little or nothing, carrying only memories of hardship, adventure, and perseverance. Countless people never returned at all, choosing to build new lives in California instead. The California Gold Rush demonstrated the extraordinary power of hope. It inspired hundreds of thousands of ordinary people to cross oceans, deserts, and mountains in pursuit of a better future. Their determination helped accelerate America's westward expansion and played a crucial role in shaping the nation. Even today, visitors can stand beside the American River near Sutter's Mill, where James W. Marshall first noticed those tiny shining flakes in January 1848. The water still flows through the valley, much as it did on that quiet winter morning. It is a reminder that some of history's greatest transformations begin with a single unexpected discovery. The gold rush was more than a search for precious metal. It was a story of ambition, courage, sacrifice, innovation, and resilience. It revealed both the best and the worst of human nature, our willingness to dream, to take risks, to build, and sometimes to exploit. More than a century and a half later, the legacy of the California Gold Rush lives on not only in museums and historic mining towns, but in the growth of California itself, and in the enduring belief that opportunity can change the course of a life, or even the course of a nation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into one of the most remarkable chapters in American history, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that shaped the world. Until next time, keep exploring the past, because history is never truly finished.